distinct until change is pretty awesome. Distinct until change is, keep emitting these events, but don't emit the same thing. Like if it already has come through, don't do it again until something else is different. Because there's another one called distinct, and distinct will, if it sees it, it doesn't matter if something changed again, it just won't do it ever again. It'll only do it once and that's it. Distinct until change is, okay, I've seen 2 twice, and then I've seen 1, oh, it changed, so now I'm going to emit it again because 2 changed to 1. And that's why I emit it again. Whereas distinct, it already seen 1 the first time, it won't emit it again. Kind of confusing, but trust me, we'll go over this stuff.
That's so should the color of the marbles do we pay attention to that? Because it's a blue 2 and not a red 2, so it is distinct to me. Are we not, when looking at Rx marbles, are we not supposed to pay attention to
Yeah, I think the color this one represents, because the second 2 is blue, that means that it was seen again, but which would mean the first 3 should be red. So I'm not sure what the colors mean on this one, because in this case, that 3 should be red.
Let's just say I wouldn't make mission critical business decisions based on the color of the marbles.
Yeah.
I think the color means where the
value
where
change.
the operation has had an effect on the stream.
Yeah, I think that's right. So the color changed when the value changed. So that's when it wasn't.
So if there was another red 3, so if there were another 3, it would become a red 3, and then you'd have 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
So again, as you can see here, we got 42, 42, 24, 24, and then the only thing that we emitted was 42 and 24. Because nothing changed, because there were 2 successful patterns twice.
Could you say like a real life example of when you would use this? I'm kind of having trouble.
Yeah, we're going to use one. Yeah.
We have a couple questions here that are backing up. So completed would only be called on subscription.dispose.
Completed.
I think there are little questions on where.
Oh, no, so there's 2 types of, we haven't talked about this, but there's 2 types of observables. There's hot and cold observables. So hot observable is something that's just coming in like from a WebSocket. Like you just don't know. It's just always just going to be coming. So maybe it may never be complete. But you can call dispose on it. Whereas like a cold observable might be something from an array. And we know when it's going to be done because there's a finite set of data in that array. So when that data is done emitting, then the compose or the complete will be fired. So it depends on what type of subscription or what type of observable you're subscribed to.
And then there was just, so if you had an observable of 10 things, it would call completed after all 10 events happen.
Well, I'm guessing if those 10 things are some static array, yes. But if those 10 things are coming from some
And it really depends on the subscriber, the nature of the subscriber. So the subscriber can basically indicate like, hey, I'm done emitting stuff, like stop. And so, for instance, when we do, like we just take an array, so we do like an observable from and we put an array in. So that operator then basically modifies that subscriber and say, hey, like no more. Or if you use like a contrived example, is you use like take 3 or range from 1 to 5. Like those operators will basically modify that essentially that subject to say, when this is done, go ahead and emit a complete event. But then other subscribers will just live indefinitely. And so in that case, it really depends on the nature of what you're doing.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's kind of the question is you can have an infinite and a finite source, but then also when you subscribe to that, you can say take until and stop after this time, and you will get completed called.
Yes.
But other observers might not.
Exactly. Correct. So combine latest is pretty cool. So this introduces us to multiple observers. So as you can see, we have 2 different streams up here. And what combine latest is, it just takes a callback and returns the value of the result of the 2 latest events at that time. And it will just combine them to one stream that you can subscribe to, which is pretty cool. So first, let's look at it. So we see we have 1, 2, all the way up to 5, and then A all the way through D. So at the time of 1, we can see that the latest would at the time of A, the latest at the top one was 1. So that's why those two are combined. And then when the time we get to B, the latest at the top one was 2. So that's why, well, actually, no, I got it backwards. At the time of A, the latest one was 1. So that's why those two were combined. But when 2 came around, which is the next event, B wasn't fired yet. So it had to be combined with the latest of the second stream, which was A, because B isn't there yet. So that's why you have 1A and 2A, because B hasn't been fired. Within the time we get to the fourth event, which is B, the latest at the top is 2. So now we have 2B. So it really is, it doesn't matter what order they come in. It doesn't matter what stream they come in. It's just going to grab the latest at the time of an event and combine them with the other ones. And it's going to process your operation here, which in this case is just adding them to a string. So this is really, really handy when you have like different sources coming in at different times, but you need to combine them from some UI. This is really, really helpful.
For instance, just throwing this out here, like let's say you needed to combine 2 observable streams admitted from NGRX store to produce a new observable.
Dang.
This is where this might come in handy. Just saying.
Whatever Lucas said. Cool, so here's an example of what that might look like. Again, we have 2 observables here. On an interval, we're just emitting a number. So we're going to combine the latest, but we're only going to take 4. Isn't really a good real world example. Again, we're going to go through in live code a lot of these. So again, this is not the part where you're supposed to be like, yeah, I got it. No, like this stuff is tough. And, oh, there's no marbles for flat map? No. So flat map sounds exactly like what it is. So it's flattening and it's mapping, right? So you have some type of nested observable and you need to flatten it, but you also want to map over it. This is what this does. This is useful for things, actually this is very useful in NGRX. I actually just seen a really good pattern. I was playing with it earlier. You could use this. So who here has used Redux before in React? Right, so like, you know, like you can use a thunk middleware to do asynchronous operations. That doesn't exist in NGRX. You can make a thunk middleware, but the middleware for NGRX right now is kind of complicated. I would not get with that. But you can also use flat map, which could take a promise or an observable, and you can map those together, and you can create your own action creators like you would with thunk and whatnot, which is pretty cool. So you can use flat map to say, hey, I want to do some asynchronous stuff here, and combine it with this other thing here and create one stream, which is pretty cool.